Listen, this video is not for everyone. It's not for the comfortable, it's for you. For that part of you that's tired of living caught between what you dream of and what you don't do. Because yes, you dream big. You imagine a powerful life, a successful one, a free one. You know you have talent. You know you have ideas that could change your path. But something holds you back. Something invisible, something silent. You can't touch it, but you feel it every single day. That mental fog. That weight that wraps around you when you know you should move, but can't. That elegant excuse you keep repeating, it's not the right time. I'm tired. I need to feel more inspired. And so, the days pass, the weeks pass, and without realizing it, your ambition starts to rot inside. Because you're watching it die, in slow motion. Sound familiar? You've made plans. You've written goals. You've watched videos like this before. But something inside you stays the same, as if you know exactly what you have to do, but a hidden force always wins. It distracts you. It sabotages you. It convinces you that tomorrow will be different, but tomorrow never comes. And now look at you, carrying a massive ambition with nearly zero action, a brilliant mind with a broken will. This video is for you. If you're tired of that silent war, if you can't stand seeing yourself as someone full of potential, who never activates it, it doesn't matter if you failed 100 times, it doesn't matter if your discipline feels shattered. What matters is that you're here now. And if you keep listening, I promise you this. You won't finish this video as the same person who started it. Because once you see the truth behind your laziness, you'll never be able to hide behind it again. Welcome. This is where everything starts to change. It doesn't show up like an enemy. It doesn't scream. It doesn't break the door down. On the contrary, it arrives quietly, like a soft whisper, like a warm blanket on a cold morning. It tells you to rest, that you've got time, that no one's waiting on you, and you believe it, because it feels good, because its voice doesn't command, it seduces. And without noticing, you start giving in. One postponed decision here, one abandoned goal there. What was once a pause becomes your way of life. What was once rest becomes quiet resignation. This is the sticky shadow. You don't see it right away, but it's everywhere. In every excuse that sounds reasonable, in every comforting phrase that only delays the inevitable. It's not the right time. I'm overwhelmed. I just don't feel up to it today. How many times have you said that? With a coffee in your hand, watching another day pass without taking a single step. And the worst part, it makes you feel innocent. Like your stagnation isn't your fault. Like the world just isn't cooperating. But it's not the world. It's that shadow walking next to you, hiding behind endless scrolling, disguised as tiredness. But deep down, it's fear. Fear of failure. Fear of success. Fear of facing everything you could become if you stopped sabotaging yourself. And the bigger your ambition, the stickier this shadow becomes. Because the higher you want to climb, the harder you imagine the fall. And just that idea paralyzes you. So you hide, with style, with arguments, with justifications that even others applaud. But you know the truth. You know you're letting the shadow write your story. And if you don't do something now, you'll end up watching the life you dreamed of from the audience. I'll do it when I feel ready, when I'm inspired, when I'm in the right mood. Those sentences have killed more dreams than failure ever could, because it's not lack of talent or intelligence that keeps you stuck. It's that endless waiting for the perfect moment that never comes. You've been taught that you need motivation to act, as if action is some kind of emotional luxury. But that's the trap. That's the lie. Motivation is unstable. Today it's with you. Tomorrow it's gone. It's like weather. It shifts. And if your discipline depends on your internal weather, you're doomed to inconsistency. You know why? Because your brain wasn't designed for success. It was designed for survival. Its job isn't to make you extraordinary. It's to keep you safe, to save energy, to avoid risk. That's why every time you set a big goal, something inside resists. Not because you're weak, but because your nervous system interprets effort as danger. Change is painful. Growth costs energy. And your brain would rather repeat a miserable routine than risk the unknown. That's why you delay. That's why you procrastinate. Not because you don't want to grow, but because you've been trained to avoid discomfort. But here's the truth. No one tells you. You don't need to feel like it to move. You need to move so that the feeling shows up. Action comes first. Momentum follows. It has always been that way. Waiting for motivation to act is like waiting to be in shape before going to the gym. What changes your life isn't what you think. It's what you do when you don't feel like it. That's what transforms you. That's what breaks the cycle. Because every time you act without motivation, you're teaching your mind who's in charge. And that is true freedom. This is where most people fail. They have a moment of clarity, they feel inspired, and they decide to change everything at once. Starting tomorrow, I'll wake up at 5 a.m., I'll work out for an hour, I'll quit sugar, I'll read 30 pages a day, I'll meditate, I'll finally launch that project. All at once. And for a few days, they actually do it. But on the fourth day, something hurts, something resists. And the brain, loyal to its mission to conserve energy, starts whispering sabotage. You don't really need to today. Take a break. Don't be so hard on yourself. And just like that, they fall back into the same cycle. Why? Because they tried to move a mountain before learning how to move a single stone. They wanted to run a marathon without first learning how to walk without collapsing. Here's the key. Make it so small, it's impossible to fail. Want to write a book? Write 1 sentence a day. Want to get in shape? Do 1 push-up. Want to read more? Read 1 page. Just 1. Sounds ridiculous. But that's exactly why it works. Because the real obstacle was never the task. It was starting. And when you make something so easy, so absurd not to do, you break the first wall, inertia. And once you move, something shifts inside. You write 1 sentence, maybe 2, 1 push-up, maybe 5, 1 page, maybe 10, not out of pressure, but because you're already in motion. Do you see the magic? It's not about changing your life in 1 day. It's about turning the tiniest possible step into something inevitable. The power is in the small, because the small is what you can still do even when you no longer believe in yourself. Discipline is not about strength. It's not about fighting with yourself every day. It's not about waking up in a battle between who you are and who you want to be. Real discipline is design. It's structure. It's removing decisions. Because every decision you have to make drains energy. And if every single day you have to ask yourself, should I work out? Should I read today? Is now a good time to work on that project? You're setting yourself up to fail. Not because you don't want it, but because your brain is wired to choose the path of least resistance. And the more decisions you leave open, the more likely you are to choose comfort. So what's the solution? Make the action automatic. Make it so obvious, so easy, so built into your day that it doesn't even feel like a choice anymore. Think about brushing your teeth. Do you need motivation to do it? No. You just do it. It's part of you. That's what your goals need to become. Not something you decide, something you do. Want to read more? Leave the book on your pillow. Want to work out? Lay your clothes out the night before. Want to build a habit? Schedule it. Same time, same place, until it becomes automatic. Every friction point you remove is 1 less excuse to fall back on. Because the less effort it takes to start, the harder it becomes to stop. And here's the golden rule. Discipline isn't about being strong. It's about being strategic. Make action the default, not the battle, not the question. The answer. There will be days when not even the small things feel doable. Days when your body feels heavy, when your mind shuts down like a trap, when even the easiest habit feels impossible. And that is where most people give up. That's when the cycle begins again. But there's a way out. A key that shuts off resistance at its core. It's called the 2-minute rule. And it's so simple, it almost sounds stupid. But that's its genius. The next time you can't do anything, commit to doing it for just 2 minutes, that's it. Want to work out? Just do it for 2 minutes. Want to read? Read for 2 minutes. Want to write? Write for 2 minutes. It's not a trick, it's an entry point. Because 2 minutes is so short, your brain doesn't resist. I don't have time, doesn't apply. I'm too tired, not relevant. I'm not in the mood, doesn't matter. 2 minutes. You have them, even on your worst day. But here's the beautiful part. Once you start, you usually don't stop. Because the real problem was never the work. It was starting. And when you break that first layer of resistance, when you reduce your commitment to the smallest possible unit, you destroy procrastination before it has time to speak. You enter action. And from there, everything changes. Maybe you won't do the full hour. Maybe you won't check off the whole plan. But you did something. And that something preserves your identity. The identity of someone who moves, who acts, who doesn't wait for conditions to be perfect. Because in this battle, even 2 minutes is a win. You're not lazy, you're ambitious, you have big ideas, you have a vision that burns in you. But the way you're living is slowly killing that fire. Because every day you don't act, it's not just a lost day. It's another silent betrayal of your own potential. It's looking your future in the face and saying, not today. And the problem isn't just the time you lose. It's the identity you're building without realizing. Because every time you say, I can't, I've never been consistent, this is just who I am, you start to believe it. You're turning inaction into a narrative, and that narrative becomes concrete. It traps you. It convinces you that this is your life, but it's not. This is not who you are. It's a pattern. And the most dangerous thing about a pattern is how normal it starts to feel. But it's not your essence. It's your fear, your comfort, your shield against effort that once hurt. But you can't hide anymore, because if you don't break the cycle now, you will get to the end of your life knowing it wasn't about ability. It was about avoidance. And there's nothing more painful than a brilliant person who spent a lifetime waiting for the perfect moment. Nothing more tragic than watching someone who had fire slowly dim, quietly, invisibly. Today is the day. The cycle doesn't break when everything is in order. It breaks when you decide you've had enough, and you take the first step not because you feel like it, but because you simply can't betray yourself one more time. The things that truly matter aren't posted. They're not loud. They don't ask for applause. The things that matter most happen in silence. They're built in the invisible, on gray days when no one is cheering you on, in early mornings without witnesses, when you get up with no motivation, but get up anyway. That's where identity is forged, not in the result, but in the quiet rhythm of tiny actions repeated with intention. Every page you read when you could scroll, every workout you do when no one's watching, every promise you keep to yourself, even when no one would know if you didn't. That's your real work. And even if no one claps for it, even if there are no rewards, no headlines, you know what you're building. Because the most important muscle you're training isn't physical. It's your character. And character can't be faked. It can't be bought. It can't be inherited. It's earned in silence, in the hours when you could quit, but choose to continue. In the mental battles no one hears, but you win, alone. And the beautiful thing is, a moment comes when it no longer feels like a fight. What used to be effort becomes part of who you are. What used to feel impossible becomes inevitable, because you've turned action into identity, And when your identity changes, everything else follows. At first, no one will notice. You'll wake up earlier, and the world will keep spinning like nothing changed. You'll read in silence, and no one will applaud. You'll work out, and your body will look the same for weeks. You'll write, and no one will read a word. And that is where most give up, because they were taught to expect fast results, because they confused transformation with external validation. But the raw truth is this: at the beginning, only you will know that you're changing. And that has to be enough. You must keep going without recognition, without likes, without compliments, without trophies. You have to keep going for something deeper, because you're tired of being the shadow of who you could be. Because you know that if you keep going like this, in 5 years you'll still have the same dreams and the same frustration. Every small step you take, even if no one sees it, is rebuilding something inside of you. Your word, your self-trust, your direction. It's like planting seeds in dry soil. For weeks and nothing happens. But one day, something breaks through, something irreversible, because it's rooted. And then, yes, people will start to notice, but you'll know that moment wasn't magic. It was built on silent decisions, tiny acts, invisible commitments. Real change doesn't come with fireworks. It tiptoes in when no one is looking. And when it finally appears, it's already too strong to stop. Because by then, you have already changed. Everyone talks about the cost of action, the effort, the discipline, the fear of failing. But no one talks about the other price, the higher price, the cost of doing nothing. Every time you delay, something slips away. An opportunity, a door, a version of yourself that will never come back. Because life doesn't pause. It doesn't wait for you to be ready. It doesn't care how much potential you have, or how many ideas live inside your head. If you don't act, time takes them, and what's left behind is something worse than failure: regret. That bitter taste of what you could have been, but weren't. Look around you. There are people with less talent than you, less knowledge, fewer ideas, but they move. And so they grow. Not because they're better, but because they didn't wait. And what about you? How many more times will you hesitate? How many more excuses will you feed while your future self watches in silence? Because here's the part no one says out loud. Some doors don't open twice. Some moments don't repeat. And the more you delay, the more you give away your place to someone who decided to go, even scared. This isn't punishment, it's law. Life rewards the ones who move and punishes the ones who wait. Because every day you do nothing, someone else is doing exactly what you dream of. Someone else is building the life you keep imagining. And not because they're smarter, but because they said, "I'm starting today." While you kept whispering, "Maybe tomorrow." You keep waiting for something out there to change, for the circumstances to improve, for the opportunity to show up, for motivation to suddenly hit. But nothing changes. Why? Because the world doesn't shift until you do. And I'm not talking about changing your environment. I'm talking about becoming someone else. Someone who doesn't negotiate with their excuses. Someone who doesn't need to feel ready to do what has to be done. Someone who got tired of waiting and finally chose to move, no matter what. That kind of person doesn't appear overnight. They're built slowly, through small decisions, through silent actions, through thousands of inner choices that no one ever sees. Because everything changes when you change. Opportunities open up, ideas flow, confidence returns, not because the universe shifted in your favor, but because you finally stopped betraying yourself. You became someone who follows through, someone who acts, someone who no longer waits for perfect conditions, because you understood the one truth that changes lives. It's not about doing more. It's about becoming someone different, the kind of person who, even when they fall, gets back up. Even when they doubt, keeps moving. Even when no one believes in them, refuses to abandon themselves. And once you become that person, There's no going back. Because now you know. No one is coming to save you. And that doesn't scare you anymore. It frees you. Look where you are right now. You listen to every word. You didn't close this video. You didn't escape into another distraction. That already says more about you than all the days you failed. There's still a part of you that believes, that still burns. And if you made it this far, it's not by chance. It's the quiet scream of your soul saying, do it now. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel more ready. Now, with what you have, from where you are, even if it's messy, even if it's small, even if no one sees. Because here's the truth no one tells you. The perfect moment never comes. What comes is the real moment. This one, this exact instant, when you can finally decide to stop being a spectator in your own story and start moving. One step, one action, 1 minute of truth, and your life starts to change forever. You don't need to be fast. You just need to not stop. Because if you don't stop, nothing can stop you.